You've discovered the space where diverse perspectives attempt to unite with civility and reason through common sense and common purpose. Join us as we attempt to rise above the polarization and bridge the divides through thoughtful and respectful dialogue as we discuss today's pressing American political issues. Welcome to the Voices of Reason podcast. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Voices of Reason podcast. We're just a couple guys that like to chat a little politics, and we come from a little different backgrounds, but I think at the end of the day, we both care about this country. I'm Mr. White, and joining me is Mr. Pink. How you doing, Mr. Pink?
Hello. I'm doing great. Wait a minute. Why am I Mr. Pink?
You're Mr. Pink.
Just deal with it.
That's easy for you to say. You got a cool sounding name.
Some guy at some other job is Mr. Purple. You're Mr. Pink.
I love it.
Mr. White.
So anyway, we're, there's just so much division out there these days, so much polarization, just extreme left, extreme right. And, we might lean a little left or a little right. But at the end of the day, we're both pretty common sense, and we just like to try and hash things out. And we definitely don't agree on everything. There's a lot we do. But we like to have a good conversation. And a lot of people are like, don't talk politics, don't talk religion. Well, Mr. Pink and I are probably the only two, at least in my circle, that we can have a good hour, 2-3 hour conversation about these things without getting emotional about it, where we can actually listen to the other side.
Most of the time. Most
of the time. Yeah. Digest it and then rebut. So,
yeah.
How are you doing today, Mr. Pink?
I'm doing great, Mr. White. And I would just, add on to what you're saying, that Mr. White and I have known each other for 20 years, and we just have always enjoyed the political banter. Me, Mr. Pink, I'm, more on the right side. I would say, this is what I kind of say, is that I consider myself to be a Republican, not necessarily a conservative. I have many, many conservative values and ideas, but I'm more interested in, our country as a republic and what that means. Not a Republican in the Sean Hannity sense, necessarily, maybe more in like Cicero or something like that.
There you go. And then myself, I lean a little further left. I think the younger I was, the more left I leaned, but I think that's pretty natural. But I mean, I'm very social conscious, but I'm also budget conscious. You know what I mean? So I guess, I think you described me once as a classical liberal, in the classical sense. I'm very inspired by Jefferson and Adams, especially Jefferson. I read a lot of his writings a while back, but it's been a while. Anyway, so yeah, we're both 9-to-5ers, but we have our own jobs, but we also have our own extracurricular jobs in the arts. Won't get too specific about that, but Mr. Pink loves it when I call him a liberal artist.
Oh, man. No, I am. I'm an artist, entrepreneur. I've been in business for myself since, basically my entire adult life, I would say. I've had a couple jobs here and there when I went back to school and stuff like that. But I've always been a business owner since probably I was 22 or 23. And that's shaped a lot of my perspective and my voting habits. And yeah, it's just, the economy and the numbers for me are important every 4 years because it directly affects what's going to happen with my business. So
right.
That's where I'm coming from on a lot of
So when did you first start following politics? Was it pretty early?
Yeah, I mean, my family has always been my family's academic, hardworking. And so we've always followed politics. I can say my first memories of being aware of it is my grandfather, who fought in the Marines in World War II. Both my grandfathers fought in World War II, but my grandfather on the Marine Corps side was much more political. He was an educator. He was the dean of 3 large inner city schools back in the 60s and 70s. And so, he always had a lot to say to it. And then there was other parts of our extended members of our family who were, more liberal, and they would come over, and we would always have these, I would be around very fiery and interesting discussions about politics.
Nice.
How about you?
So you had it on both sides of your family, like Thanksgiving, there was good debates going on, or hopefully not major arguments, but
no, never major arguments and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, political talk around the table at Thanksgiving and stuff like that, for sure.
Well, my family is, my immediate family was kind of conservative Democrats, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So again, very social conscience, but also like they've just always been common sense.
Reagan Democrats, would you say?
I don't believe they voted for Reagan, but they were like, he won, this is our president, So it's always been instilled in me from a very early age that to respect the office. And even there's been plenty of presidents that that I'm like, I completely disagree with your policies. I don't think you're a good person, but I respect you as the president. You know what I mean? Because that's the office. But I think I started following politics right around Clinton, because he really reached out to, he got on, Arsenio Hall and MTV, and he was really smart about reaching out to that younger vote, and you're like, this guy's kind of cool, like, I'm from Arkansas, just so that's when I really started paying more attention. I think is like in the early to mid 90s is when I really started following, and then getting more involved. The older, as soon as I turned 18, I absolutely registered to vote, and you've been voting ever since. And you tend to vote more Republican would you say you always vote Republican?
Always. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See,
I mean,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, it's just, for me, like I said, the fundamentals always align on that side for me. If there was for me, it usually comes down to business. And when you're a business owner, you find that there's a lot of the population that's allowed to vote choices for your business, and you're completely outvoted. I think there's like, what is it? 10-1 business owners versus everybody else in the United States, but everybody has a say on my business. And usually it's the conservative side that's kind of, holding the front line on that. So yeah, usually it's like, that's where I find my base. And I've never, in my lifetime, there's never been like a super pro business Democrat, in my opinion, to run for office.
Right. Well, I'm talking
been
like
the last one for me.
So I'm talking more than just presidential. Like, look, personally, I believe local politics is even more important. I mean, well, of course, president is very important, but I'm saying as a state, we have the electoral college. So a lot of states, they're going to go red or blue. It's just the way it is. There's battleground states. And I mean, that can change, but we see how it goes with a lot of certain states. They are going to vote blue. They are going to vote red. That's just the way it is. But local politics, I feel, is even more important. But I've always been, even when I first started voting, I was never like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself with one political party, because I don't agree with a lot of what they're talking about, So I have voted for Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and your favorite Green Party. I have always voted who I thought I haven't voted for party. I vote for the person. And if I believe that this person as a libertarian is better than this guy as a Democrat, I'm going to vote for that person.
Yeah. And I take a little bit of a different approach. I usually vote R down the ticket when I've made up my mind, because I want to support the agenda of the bigger candidate. And, I always vote locally, and I tend to sit down with like a cigar and a beer or something and try to look through as much as I can locally. But to be perfectly honest, nobody can know all these people and, the school board council member and stuff like that. So I think it is important to have that person's kind of political identity out front, because it just, at least that person has relative things that align with your ideas, and you're not going to know everything about them. So that's why I typically kind of do that on more of the local stuff. But I will say, and like I said, I do that because I want to support the larger ticket. Right. But I will say I could have voted for somebody like Tulsi Gabbard. Absolutely. You know, she's a hawk when it comes to foreign policy and stuff. And she's anti-war in the same sense. You know, she's a total patriot. She served our country, and she has some smart ideas. I think some of the things I can't align with, you know, certain things, economical things maybe, but like for the most part, I would vote for her all day long, you know, unless there was, you know, unless Trump was running, because that's my horse.
Well, you say, you know, whether you're voting for like a PTA member or whatever, like, so with some of the local elections, like, say water district commissioner or whatever, you're like, so what I do in that instance is I do read through the whole, I don't read through the whole ballot, but I'll read their statement that they wrote. And if it's chock full of spelling mistakes, I'm voting for the other guy.
Oh, yeah. Or dude, it's trying to trick you in what it's actually saying. Like a no vote actually is yes, you know?
Yeah, sometimes, if you're trying to confuse me, you are automatically not getting my vote.
Yeah.
But see, a lot of people don't even do that. They just go, oh, Democrat, 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 Republican, Republican, Republican. You know, they don't even look. They don't even read, you know.
My mom gave me the great wisdom when I first started voting early on, when I would be confused about all these things. I'm just like, I'm confused about like what they're trying to tell me here. And she's like, Mr. Pink. She didn't call me Mr. Pink, but yeah. She's like, if you're in doubt, just vote no, because most of the yeses just want your money.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart. It's like always pick C, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's go to work.
So we're recording this mid-July, just after a few days past the Republican convention.
Mm-hmm.
And as of today, there was breaking news that Mr. Pink sent me. I'm like, no, you're kidding. Well, it's not that big of a surprise, but you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I think we've all been kind of expecting it. A lot of dynamic talk back and forth on will Biden drop out of the race. And, you know, as it looks of like about an hour ago, Fox, CNN, all across the board is reporting that Biden is going to be dropping out of the race. And I can't confirm this, but from what it looks like it's going to be Kamala.
So, he did release a statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let me just jump down, because, you know, he talks about how we've made history in the last 3.5 years, and this is all the good stuff we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm not saying he has. I'm just brushing by that right now. He says, it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to solely focus on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all of this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. So it does sound like I read something else that he is endorsing Kamala Harris.
Okay.
So the breaking news is, yes, Biden is stepping down, and he should have done this a while ago. You know, I mean, we all know it. We all see it. And finally, his own party is like, dude,
do we all see it? Because 2 weeks ago, Jean-Pierre was saying that those were all cheap fakes by the conservative media.
Have you met a press secretary who is totally honest? Have you ever?
No, but it's like, come on. It's so like, you know,
I
obvious.
would never want that job, dude.
Oh, no. That has got to be the worst possible job. It's like, here, you're going to have mud slung at you for the next 4 years or, year and a half, however long it
Here,
lasts.
polish this turd and put it in front of the press corps,
Here's a case of lipstick. Go put it on that pig.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think it's definitely not news that Biden is, old. And I honestly see early sign, well, not even early signs anymore, but dementia and possibly Alzheimer's coming in. And it's just, who would put their grandparent up there like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I've thought for the last couple years, at least, when you see moments he has like this, that it's almost, it borderlines elderly abuse.
Absolutely.
And,
but he's
people that
also
are close
very,
to him should know better.
But I think a lot of it is him too. Like
well, I think it's him. I think it's his wife, who I'm not a big fan of. But when she goes out there and she's like, "You did so good, Joe. You answered all the questions." And he
got a big star on the fridge. He got a big star on the fridge.
You're getting an achievement, a star. And it's like, come on, you're with this guy, And, it reminds me of things I've read about, the history of our country. Like the 25th Amendment was created because Woodrow Wilson, around the turn of the century, first president to play Birth of a Nation in the White House, had a stroke. And for the last 6 months of his presidency, we didn't have media, obviously, like we do now, no cameras. His wife, by proxy, ran the country.
Right.
And, nobody, Bill Burr had a great one. I think it was when Obama was president. He's like, Michelle's got to shut up. He's like, if I hire a plumber and he comes to my house and he's like, here's my wife, she's going to tell you what all the problems are. He's like, she's not a plumber. And it's just like, no, nobody elected that person. And you need someone competent, obviously, even if they're not so confident in their, say they're not the most intellectual or whatever. You need someone smart enough to surround themselves with the people they need to.
Yeah.
And when you can't find exit stage left, it's time to exit stage right.
Well, I almost got to the point where I'm like, he was really becoming very selfish because, like, there's no way he's going to beat Trump. There's just like, I don't even care about all the polls. Like, you just look at the two, and I mean, he's like, no, I got this. Like, I'm sorry, you can't drive anymore, sir.
Well,
just like,
when you put the two of them together on a debate stage, the contrast was stark and clear.
So do you think that Obama called him and he said, now, Joe, here's what we got to do. You got to drop out, Joe.
Absolutely. And I'm not a huge conspiracy guy, but if I was going to buy into anything, I would say Obama has been leading this party since he left.
Yeah,
and
we can dig into that later.
Joe, nobody's following Joe for his, massive breakthroughs in cultural leadership and stuff like they were Obama. The country did follow Obama. Even many conservatives I knew voted for Obama.
I voted for him the first time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I did not. And
I know he had a D next to his name, so
Well, yeah, I won't get into my business issues with that, but like, I mean, I just think that party's clearest direction was under Obama, and they still have a lot of political influence, political power, like the Clintons did when they left office, like the Clintons did even up into the Obama administration. I just feel like this administration was going to be looking to that former administration for kind of all the intellectual comings and goings of what the culture should be for that party.
But as someone who's an independent that leans a little bit more left, this party has gone so far to the left that I think they're destroying themselves from the inside. I mean, they're so out of touch. They are so out of touch.
When you lose Bill Maher, like something is wrong.
I like Bill Maher. I think he's I don't always agree with him, but he's always entertaining and he's witty as hell.
I think he's kind of a sad, pathetic little man, but at least he's
doing all
coming
right.
to
I don't think he's worried about you.
No, of course not. Exactly.
So,
but I do want to say when people start to find some kind of direction that's outside of the track or rut they've been in, and see the benefits of going. I'm not saying he's certainly not pro-Trump or anything, right? But I do want to encourage people that recognize their own kind of, if you've been missing something about this administration and you're not just a zealot, and you can kind of wake up and say, okay, it's time we start thinking about something else. I want to acknowledge that and kind of praise that, because a lot of entities and people don't do that. And it's that should be congratulated when people are being fair-minded.
Yeah. Again, it boils down to common sense. I mean, I wish there was such thing as a common sense party. So, yeah. But let's go back to Biden dropping out. So now it's not an automatic, here's the next candidate. So we still have the Democratic National Convention. Now, I doubt it's going to be as flashy as the RNC, but it's still very cult-like, and we'll get into that in a minute. But so all these delegates and super delegates, they have their points or their votes that they put behind a certain candidate. Now, Biden can endorse whoever he wants all day long, but it's going to be up to these delegates to put their support behind whoever they put their support behind. Mm-hmm. Now, party-wise, of course, the DNC is probably going to say, well, unless Kamala says, no, I don't want it, then we have to back her. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't have to. The delegates can do whatever they want with their votes.
Well, the super delegates can do whatever they want. The delegates don't really get to do whatever they want in the Democratic Party. They'll make a decision like Bernie, who could have actually beaten Trump.
Yeah.
And nope, sorry, it's going to be Joe and Kamala, super delegate. Sorry, children. The adults are making a decision. And this is another big reason why I could never vote for the Democratic Party.
Well, another reason that shows that they're out of touch.
Well, there's nothing democratic about it. You made a decision, the people made a decision, and they come in with a super delegate and say no, and they take it away. And it's like, what is democratic about that?
Yeah.
The people spoke, and you said no. Go F yourselves.
So I don't think that Kamala can beat Trump, personally.
No.
Because I look and go, oh, what has she done? No, seriously, what has she done?
Bro, and she's almost a bigger walking gaffe machine than Joe Biden. And these things she says, like, we must
she doesn't say anything. She talks.
No, she talks. But that's right. That's such a great point, Mr. White. It's like, she wants to have these big historical moments, but they're so forced and they're so meaningless. Like, we must do what can be done without the burden of what.
And then it's done, so we did it.
It's so vacant and meaningless, and like Jerry Springer, or maybe we should say Montel Williams in this case.
I mean, I don't know anyone who's like, oh, she is so great at what she does, and unless they're a hardcore party line person, But so what are the other choices they have? They're not.
Well, they don't really have any choices because we have a process in America called the American election, and you choose your candidate, and that's all been done. Yeah. We had that process, and now 6 weeks before the election, we're going to go ahead and throw everything up in the air.
This is
totally randomly pick someone out of a hat and hope for the best. I mean, it's not a responsible.
Has this ever happened before?
Platform to lead the country. It has not in our lifetime. That's for sure. I mean, like I said, I would go back to Woodrow Wilson for anything the closest that I know of. But honestly, and then there's the 1968 Democratic National Convention, which was an absolute mess. But no, I mean, not that I know of. I really can't remember a time in history where 6 weeks out before election, we don't even know who the nominee of the Democratic Party is.
I mean, I've heard Newsom being floated around as a possible, and then some other Democrat that was running against Biden like in the primaries.
Well, that would be the smartest thing to do, right? Like pick somebody from the primaries that's already been vetted.
Yeah.
To me, that would be the only thing responsible that you could actually really do because they've been through a primary.
Right.
Gavin Newsom. I mean, I am here in California, and I'm a business owner here in Southern California, and this state is trash. It's just trash. Whenever Xi Jinping from China shows up, they kick the homeless out to somewhere,
China.
put them somewhere for a week, but then they're all right back out. And I mean, dude, it is a zombie fest. If you go downtown, it smells like urine.
I tell you what, I think it's the same in any major city. If there's something big that happens,
No, I'm saying it is light years away from where it was even 6 years ago. It is demonstrably worse, exponentially worse. And, if they're going to run that guy and, Trump's going to have these commercials he has that they aren't like typical conservative commercials, right? He shows you what you don't want to see. He's bombastic and he's going to be like, oh yeah. Okay. And then all you're going to see is video of trashed California, Oakland, LA, San Diego, San Francisco. They're all garbage dumps.
Yeah.
That used to function.
So let's talk a little.
It went from the Golden State to the Golden Shower State.
Oh.
Okay. Pause. You can cut that.
No, it's staying
in. China.
So let's chat a little bit. So going back to the conventions. So the RNC convention just wrapped up a couple days ago. What are your impressions of the RNC convention?
Okay, so I'm sure some people saw this and were just like, oh my God, it's totally kitsch and like, really Vegas-y or something. But like, I'm so used to these bland, boring, conservative everything. Everything they do is bland and boring, right? And like, I played in a metal band for 10 years. And the thing about metal is it's a good show. You got to put on a good show if you want people to listen and take you seriously or think about what you're doing. And so the one thing I have to say is that the Trump people know how to put on a show. I mean, I kept looking for it afterwards, the moment where he actually walks out on stage for the first time and it's all lit up, Trump behind him, and he's standing in front of it like he's a wrestler.
It's a show.
It's so awesome. In the sense that it's just so over the top and showmanship wise that I was just like, oh, this is great. I'm used to all this boring stuff, and I just thought it was really fun. And for like younger people and stuff like that, I mean, I think you can really see that they're making an effort to make it more dramatic. And some of the people they got up there, like, what's her name? Something Rose. She had a tattoo on her forehead. She's some kind of hip hop star. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah. She's like some lesbian hip hop star.
Yeah, and her dad kind of got her questioning. It was like talking about Donald Trump. It was a compelling story, right? But like for the what I think is that the Trump campaign knows how to really, or the Trump people really know how to go out for that kind of mainstream up and coming voter. We were talking earlier, Mr. White, about when we first started coming of age as far as voting awareness and stuff like that. And I think they really do have kind of their finger on the pulse of like Gen Z and stuff, and really going after that kind of dazzle that kind of draws new people in. Like, what's this? So I thought it was very effective, really effective.
So obviously Trump is a TV guy. He knows TV. So I was trying to look at it. Like I caught snippets. I watched the last night for not most. It was a really long, but I watched
longest one in history.
Yeah. So I'll let me rewind. So I wanted to look at it like not only just as me as a potential voter, but like what is average Joe watching TV? What is he saying, right? And to me, it was your target demographic is young white males. That's like, because you got Kid Rock, you got Hulk Hogan, you got Dana White, you have this fight, and it was almost a little cringy and kind of funny to me, honestly. Now the showmanship, yes, absolutely, it was a production. Although, did you see Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I didn't see
That
her.
was weird, dude. It was cringy. She's like, "We want to make America great again." like I don't know if she was just really nervous, but she was making this weird noise. Like
there's a reason why some people speak on day 1 or day 2, you know?
Yeah, I think they were like, "Hey, Marjorie, we got to tone down the rhetoric because we want to like do a unity thing. There's this new theme called Unity," and she's like, "I don't know how to do that." So I don't know. It was weird. I'll play a soundbite on the next one just so you can. It's just weird.
Well, I really do like her, and I think she is more of that kind of fighter spirit, more of the hawk
She's
and
an
stuff.
extremist.
And
I'm sorry, but she's she's way too far over.
When you're at this point, like I thought Trump did really well at trying to bring people in and saying like, look, there's no victory in winning for half the country. So,
but then at the same, like on the very next line is like, they're coming after me. They're the enemy, but we should all get together.
Bro, they tried to shoot him in the face. They are coming after him. Not only that, 90.
Who's they try to shoot?
Well, I don't know. A bullet did go by the man's face.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
somebody is they. Oh, I'm sorry. I know what you mean now. You mean they, them.
No. I'm saying
it turns out
you're making it sound to me. Who knows who this guy is? And let's jump into that. So
okay.
Yes, Trump was someone.
Let me explain what I mean by they. I get what you're saying. Let me explain what I mean by they. So as soon as he gets out of office, you have a congressman trying to strip him of all secret security force. What's that about? Why would you do that?
What does that have to do with the assassination?
I'm saying for the last 3 years, the first 2 years he's out, they tried to strip him of secret service. Why would you do that? This is what I mean by they. Let me finish. And so then you have him petitioning to get more secret service for the last 2 years. And they're like, nope, we're not going to give it to you. Then they hit him with felony charges, right? Like 94 misdemeanor felony charges, whatever. Most of them are getting tossed out now. One of them, nobody can even say what the law was broke. The judge said, just basically make up whatever law. It doesn't matter what crime he broke. It's just okay. We need to find him guilty. That's the New York one. And all of that one started because he said how much he thought his property was worth when he was going to sell something. And turns out it's a little more than the state thought it was worth. Everyone does that when they go to sell a house. And frankly, that's because the state doesn't usually know what your house is worth. And so we have this clear record of people persecuting Donald Trump after the presidency. Most presidents, leave him alone. He's done now, and of course he's still campaigning because he wants to run again. But you can't tell me that whatever the deep state is, whatever people want to call it, hasn't been persecuting this man for the last 3.5 years. They've stripped him of his ability to make money, or they're trying to tie him up in court and cost him millions and millions of dollars. They're completely going after this guy. So when I say they on the shooter, I'm just saying it's a culmination of things. Of course, it's a lone gunman with mental problems. That's the case every time for some reason. And then we never get to find out what happened. How convenient.
So I hear what you're saying, but I think it's a little too early to try and tie that in together.
For sure. But we're talking about like how the average person sees it and stuff. And,
No, everybody was an expert as soon as it happened online. Yeah. I saw everything from, it was an inside job by the Secret Service to Donald Trump did it like framed, it was all staged. I mean,
the FPS trajectory on that bullet.
No, I saw some, like there was I think it was CBS or CNN was like loud noises as Trump falls behind podium.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So, but everybody and their mother is all of a sudden an expert when we have very little information so far. And so I think it's kind of reckless to say, oh, well, that's the deep state. They're going after Donald Trump. That's like, that's a huge jump. That's easy to say when this guy, we don't know much about him yet, except for some social media posts, and some research that he was researching where Trump was going to be and where Biden was going to be.
Well,
So,
I'm not trying to be reckless. I'm just trying to say, like, there's obviously a pattern.
So he was a registered
DOJ,
Republican, but he donated to the Democrats. So
he was also transgender and obviously had mental problems. Yeah, that's just coming out, and they're trying not to talk about that a lot. But
I think a lot of this it's going to take a little while. But I think
when I said them, I was just trying to be polite. No, I'm kidding.
No, I just want to make sure that we're not tying it into like, you know, the Democrats. Like,
no, I'm not doing that. I'm saying, look. A lot of us think that there's a lot of history to the FBI and the CIA being the absolute biggest criminal organizations in human history. And there's just plenty of evidence of that. And if they don't like somebody, Chuck Schumer said it himself about the intelligence agency. Oh, they're going to go after Donald Trump. You can't say those things about the intelligence agency. They have 6 ways from Sunday of coming after you. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. Courts, the ability to make money, the ability to even run, subpoenaing his sons, telling his family they're going to go to prison for doing the same things in a political campaign that everybody else does. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm recognizing, like probably many other average American voters in this country do, that there's an attack on this person from a bigger entity. Department of Justice has been nothing but cruel to this person, that, of course they tried to shoot him. And when I say they, I'm just saying you can't have the rhetoric that, De Niro comes out and says, if he gets in, he's never going to leave. He's going to be a dictator. He's going to destroy democracy. You have a bunch of influential people saying this stuff constantly. You're going to get a whack job. They did the same thing to Reagan.
Well, I don't know. I've heard the last 4 or 5 presidents compared to Hitler. It's rhetoric I hear every year. I heard conservatives calling Obama like Hitler.
I don't remember any mainstream conservative ever associating Obama with Hitler. I really do.
No, he was a terrorist that wasn't born here, but
well, and that's true. But even then, I don't think it was most mainstream media outlets. First of all, because those are usually typically left-leaning: MSNBC, ABC, CBS, CNN. Fox, okay, maybe Fox News is, of course, they've been conservative, but you have basically, CNN is in all your gyms, it's in all your airports. And I'm just saying, I don't remember a lot of mainstream conservatives calling Obama Hitler.
Yeah.
But I do see on CNN where you've got a guy, oh, Trump's the big Hitler, Trump's got to be stopped. I mean, that was for 4 years.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of rhetoric on both sides, and they need to tone it the F down.
It's just never going to happen. It's just never going to happen.
I think it's honestly, dude, I think it's beyond the news stations anymore. It's all social media now.
Yeah.
I mean, and your algorithm's going to be fed by whatever you're following. And if you're like, this guy reminds me of Hitler, all of a sudden you're going to have all this shit like reinforcing your ideas because they're getting paid for it.
Well, I think it's a deeper problem with the state of mental health in America, honestly, because we always have had this kind of dynamic argument in the United States of America. Jefferson and Adams. So when Adams was president, second president, Jefferson was his sitting vice president, which back then vice presidency wasn't really worth a bucket of warm spit, as a famous vice president put it. But they were great friends. They, drafted the Declaration of Independence together. And then Adams became president. Jefferson's his vice president. And Jefferson runs for president while he's the vice president for John Adams. And they become insane political enemies. And one of Jefferson has one of his media people, right, like newspaper type things, write about John Adams that he is a hermaphroditical sort of a man with neither the good sense of a woman or the spine of a man. And I mean, back then, them are fighting words, right? And
also dueling words, yeah.
Aaron Burr and that whole situation. I mean, America's always had very extreme dynamic political rhetoric.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's digress back to the convention itself. I definitely want to we could probably do a whole episode on the pros and cons of Trump as a president and a business owner.
Absolutely.
and that whole dynamic. And I'm definitely looking forward to like digging into that.
No, we really should, because America is basically a corporation. I mean, it's set up like that. That's why we have a president.
So as far as the RNC goes, I thought the very beginning was very somber. When he started speaking in his speech, it was somber. It was talking about unification, and then it went into more political speech, like we had the best economy in the history of the United States. No, you didn't. But
actually, yeah, there's a lot.
That's not
absolutely
true. Not true. Not true at all.
Neither did
Biden.
We'll get into that. Biden. Oh, no. And neither did Obama. Obama had an absolute pathetic GDP, and it was inflated by the Fed the entire time he was president to make it look like he was good for the economy. But that never happened.
Write that down.
He destroyed my business.
Talk about the Fed. We got to talk.
Not a fan.
More. Yeah. So anyway, as like I'm watching it, and then what turned me off is as soon as I heard these words, and I hear these words every single election. This is the most important of our election of our lifetime.
I hear that every election too, and
every single election.
Well, look, I think right now, obviously it's rhetoric, and I've heard it every election too. But you could look at it from this way too. We're essentially in two wars that we weren't in 4 years ago. The economy is an absolute shambles. I mean, Build Back Better is an absolute disaster. Food is outrageously expensive. I just spent like $200 and I probably have a week's worth of food.
Maybe.
Gas, I mean, forget about it. If you're a business that deals with transportation and shipping, your energy prices are just through the roof. And then people wonder why everything's so expensive. And then you have to up the minimum wage. And then the whole cycle repeats itself, right? Because now the guy that makes your burger needs to get $27 an hour. And that business owner can no longer afford to give you a $5 burger. I went to Subway the other day. It was $17 for one.
Do you remember $5 footlongs?
Yeah. Mr. White, I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, remember the $5 footlong? Yeah, now it's 17. Yeah, and they roll up your meat like a little joint and stuff it in there. There's not a lot of substance in there anymore either.
Subway is not an official sponsor of the show, but we're willing to talk.
And most likely never will be now.
voicesofreasonpod@gmail.com.
That's fantastic.
No,
but I mean,
so I watched some highlights, and it sounds like so the first 15-20 minutes was really good. I thought it was great, and I'm so happy that he made a point to bring up Corey. I don't want to butcher his last name. Corey Competore, the gentleman who ended up dying at the rally.
The hero who saved his family from
like literally saved his family. So I'm really glad that he didn't just, of course he's got to talk about it, but he didn't just make it about him. And that was important to me as a viewer to go, okay, thank you for giving that guy, some time.
It was about as good as could be done for the situation, I would say.
Absolutely. So I was really happy to see that. But then once he got into I tuned out, but then later watched, highlights, and it sounds like he went off for a good half hour, 40 minutes about how the Democrats are evil. They're going after him, how he's going to make things better. But then the last 15 minutes brought it back to, I'm running for all of America. Let's, we need to unite. And
I think that's typical of any kind of convention speech, right? That if it's not your convention, you're not going to find all that talk comfortable, obviously. But, I thought too, when Obama did his acceptance speech, I was kind of emotional about it. I was like, okay, If he actually, follows through on how he's talking right now, then this could be okay. Right. And I just don't feel like he did any of that. But it was a very inspiring, exceptional speech.
When Trump got in, that's how I felt too. I'm like, if he follows everything that he's saying, I'm all about it. Mm-hmm. But then when he got in, I'm like, he's not following all what he said. So,
well, I mean, I think both of them followed exactly what they said for the most part. I mean, Obama coming in and saying he was going to fundamentally transform America. Yeah, I think he did that. And I think we're reaping the unfortunate benefits of that still. But again, that's my perspective as a business owner, very unfriendly to business. My contractor's license went from $240 every 2 years, which I could afford, to over $1,200 a year overnight. And all my business expenses were represented like that.
That's a state thing, though. That's not, you don't have a federal business license.
No, I understand that, but it's policy that comes down from the administration, like anything. It was the same thing in Seattle. And you have to understand too that the state I live in is sympathetic to that administration. If I was in Texas, they probably would have given them the middle finger, right? But I'm not. That just got instituted.
So let's touch a little bit on the assassination attempt. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but so when's the last time a sitting president or presidential candidate had an assassination attempt on him?
That would have been Ronald Reagan in 1980. So 44 years ago now. And before Reagan, it was 18 years before that it was the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Right.
The Reagan one, he survived, obviously, but it was divine intervention. There's no other way you can put it. The bullet lodged within an inch from his heart. And Reagan, many...
Mr. White.
As you know, Mr. White, Reagan had a profound sense of humor and was very, very funny. And he had just been shot. The bullets lodged an inch from his heart. He goes in to get surgery on him. Before they put him under, he says, "I sure hope you're all Republicans." Come on, that's fantastic.
Well, that again. Okay, so that guy
he did say that. By the way, he actually. That's
I believe you. Yeah. No, I think I've heard that. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah,
but so that shooter, he wasn't a diehard Republican or Democrat either.
No, not at all.
He was just a kooky motherfucker. He was
John Hinckley Jr.
You know why he did it?
Because he wanted to get the attention of Jodie Foster, his favorite actress, who he had an obsession with.
Jodie Foster. Mm-hmm. But get this, man. I remember hearing his name again in the news recently, and it was a couple years ago, because he was given like his legal restrictions were taken away because I guess he's an artist and a musician. Yeah, I think anyone who can spell musician can be a musician nowadays.
Yeah,
but he has his own.
You can
YouTube
say
channel.
Juxtaposition. You're an artist now. Yeah.
So he was going under like a pseudonym or something, and to sell his art. Well, now he has to use his real name, but now all of his restrictions. He's out.
And I don't necessarily.
Wait, let me rewind and say he got a not guilty plea based on criminal insanity.
I mean, look, obviously he should be watched closely for the rest of his life and stuff like that. So, but the president that he attacked is long gone. There's no threat there. It's anybody's mental state that's done something like that in the past should be watched very closely. So I mean, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more, whether somebody like that should ever get out and be on the.
Well, it was just surprising to read that. I mean,
I think it was for me too.
Yeah, I mean, but once they go away, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then, before that was the Lincoln assassination. Presidents have always been in danger. We have an open society. The way we get elected in the United States, you have to be very in public. Here's something that I find kind of interesting, though, is like, Mr. White, you and I, probably 15, almost 20 years ago now, got into a car accident. Remember, we got hit from behind when we were turning. And we both drive. I drove for a living then. Mr. White drives for a living now. And I remember getting in the car for the next week after that or so. It was like just a little sketchy, you know. You just kept feeling like you were going to get hit again.
Right.
And the man's shot at, gets hit in the ear, and literally a couple days later, he's out campaigning again in an open arena. And it's just like, man, say what you will about him. The guy's got balls.
Well, honestly, I'm sure it's kind of like when a restaurant sorry, this is probably a horrible comparison, but like a restaurant gets popped for serving bad food. After they get popped, they're going to be the safest restaurant to eat at. So I guarantee you his rallies are probably going to be some of the safest places to be now.
For sure. But still psychologically, it's like, man,
he gave huge props to he gave huge props to the Secret Service too. And those people give, like, literally jump in front of bullets for these people. And it's
look, there was a lot of problems, but the fact that he was willing to just kind of go up there and say, no, these people, I thought it was really.
Again, we don't know that the dynamics of Secret Service circle, state police circle, right, or county sheriffs. We don't know those dynamics.
Where it broke down, right? Yeah. But I'm saying it did break down. If there was a guy up,
but I think any rooftop within distance should be watched,
especially a pitched rooftop with a ladder on it.
Yeah,
weird.
Again, yeah, it's strange. Hopefully, they do release more information.
Well, Patrick Bet-David had a really interesting take. I think it was Piers Morgan he was talking to when they're like, "What about these ideas that the conspiracy that Trump had it all set up?" I mean, yeah. I think if you know anything about guns, that's kind of ridiculous. But he said something interesting, which was like, yeah, that's fine. If they want to have that conspiracy, let's do it, because everything has to be on the table right now. Let's find out. It doesn't matter what your conspiracy is. Something right. broke down and we need to find out what it
Absolutely.
is.
I 100% agree with that. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I know it sounds cliche, but yeah, political violence, I don't care whether it's a lone wolf or an operative, like, we got to be able to have our freedom of speech, and we have to be able to have our freedom of choice to be able to pick who we want, and those people have every right, even if it's the craziest shit you've ever heard, they've got the right to say it. You know right. what I mean?
And freedom of speech, I mean, let's say what it really is. It's freedom of political speech. That's exactly what they meant, because they were closer to tyranny than we were. They had a king that could just come in and say, you can't say that anymore. And so it was important to these men to craft a document that was as nuanced as it was, to make sure that tyrannical forces could not come in and stop us from having our political speech.
Right. I agree. Well, let's switch gears here. I think maybe in the next episode we should talk about, like, well, hopefully we'll hear who might be the Democratic candidates at that point. But let's dive a little deeper into Trump and J.D. Vance, his new running mate, and kind of get a little history on them and kind of dive a little further. And then maybe we can hash out some of Trump's business dealings and how some people would say that he is corrupt and other people would justify his business transactions or his presidential decisions. And I just want to say our democracy is not on the line. We're okay. It's not the most like
I would say
whether Trump gets in or not, don't worry about him being a dictator. We had 4 years. It wasn't horrible. We're still okay. We're fine. Everything's good.
I would say we're not a democracy. First of all, democracy is a tool for a republic to ensure the vote of the people.
You know what I meant.
I know what you mean, but I'm clarifying my perspective on it. Like, we pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, not the democracy. And I will say, our founding framers were wise to democracy. Benjamin Franklin called democracy the ass of history, because he said, once the people figure out they can vote into their own property, other people's property, democracy is game over. It's mob rule without the architecture of a republic to protect that. So, I think it's important to articulate why we're a republic.
Well, and I think they need to really start teaching that fact in school more. I mean,
Yeah.
like, oh, democracy, but we are a republic, and
Yep.
for a reason.
Yep.
Exactly like you just explained. So first off, I just want to thank any one of our like 6 listeners, maybe 6, maybe 4, I don't know, that are still listening right now.
Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Thank you for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, comments, topic ideas, please email us at voicesofreasonpod@gmail.com. We're also going to get a YouTube channel set up here soon, and Instagram profile is voices_of_reason_1776. We got to figure out a way to make that
Everything's
better.
been taken.
So Mr. Pink and I like to get into heated debates and discussions sometimes, but we like to end things with a little positive note. So I've got a little good news story for you here.
Okay, look, you two. We need something good. Good news, some animals, some people helping people. Something. Give us some good news.
The voice of an angel. So get this, man. 60 years after being selected as a candidate to become the first African-American astronaut, this gentleman, Edward Dwight, finally traveled to space with Blue Origin. At 91, he became the oldest person in space, surpassing William Shatner.
What?
Yeah. Dwight's journey aboard the New Shepard rocket, owned by Jeff Bezos' company and Amazon, was a 10-minute trip above the Kármán line. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That's the boundary between Earth's atmosphere and outer space. Mr. Dwight said, fantastic, a life-changing experience. Everyone needs to do this. Yeah, if you can afford it. I don't know I needed this in my life, but now I need it in my life. So Dwight, despite not being chosen by NASA in the 60s, he was a contender to be one of the first African Americans in this space. Dwight had a successful career as an artist and sculptor, but his lifelong dream of space travel was fulfilled when a group of sponsors honored his service and inspirational role in American history by arranging for his seat on the Blue Origin flight. Reflecting on this journey, Dwight noted the dynamic separation of the capsule from the rocket, finding it a little bit more intense than he anticipated. Energized by his brief stint in space, he now aims to go even further, expressing a desire to orbit the Earth and see the entire planet from space. This milestone not only marked a personal achievement for Dwight, but also symbolized the perseverance and continued aspirations of a generation inspired by his pioneering spirit. So he was one of the finalists back in the 60s to go into space.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Unfortunately, wasn't picked, but at 91, he was able to make that dream a reality.
That's so fantastic. And let me tell you, man, my uncle was a renowned astrophysicist, and I went to stay in a cabin with my aunt and him and a friend of theirs. This is, again, 25 years ago, probably. But his friend that owned the cabin was an astrophysicist as well that was going to go up with NASA. And not only was he an astrophysicist, but this guy would swim out into the lake, or actually it was a river nearby, big river. You know of it, Mr. White. Excuse me. And would swim, hold his breath and swim to the bottom and get lobsters to cook for dinner. Like, this dude not only was an astrophysicist, but like, you got to be peak performance healthy. Right. So salute to this man at that age to be healthy enough to go.
Isn't that
God,
great,
I'm that
though?
good. Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely.
And the fact that these people sponsored him, like a bunch of people put them funds together to put him out into space.
And don't get on NASA's Starliner?
No, the Starliner is the Elon one. I think you're thinking of the Boeing one.
Is it the Boeing? Yeah, it's the Boeing one. Yeah.
Yeah, the doors might fly off.
Yeah. I think the astronauts are still stuck on the International Space Station.
Yeah, they said that there was a helium leak. They're like, NASA, we have a problem up here.
Not good. Send Dragon up there and get him back.
Well, hey, buddy, it's always good chatting with you. This is our inaugural. Oh, by the way, let me say that story I found off the goodnewsnetwork.org.
Great.
There's some awesome stories there. Everything from local USA to worldwide. There's some really cool stuff. There are still good people out there doing good things, and it's always good to remind ourselves of that.
Absolutely.
But I love our discussions, and I look forward to the next one. Any final thoughts for today?
You know, I just want to say thank you to anybody that kind of picks us up and starts to listen to us. Like Mr. White said, we have a lot of fun doing this, and with everything going on in the world, we just thought it'd be fun to kind of start up this conversation. And we just appreciate anybody tuning in, and would love to hear from you. Please, we'd love to hear your comments if something I said riles up something in you, or something Mr. White said riles up something in you, please feel free to comment. We'd like to hear what you have to say.
Love the feedback, and conflicting ideas or different ideas are always welcome. Always welcome.
Yeah, diversity of ideas. That's what this show is all about.
Absolutely. So, all right, buddy. Well, good chatting with you, and until next time, salute.
Salute.
Thank you for being a part of our conversation. This podcast is produced by Our Radical Metal Productions. Music is American Idol by RKVC and is used with permission through the YouTube studio. Follow Voices of Reason on YouTube and Instagram. Please email us any questions, feedback, or show suggestions to voicesofreasonpod@gmail.com.